Benvenuto, signores y señoritas. Aquí está el DJ. Welcome, everybody. No, this isn't Latin radio. We're not going to be announcing soccer games. We're not going to be...
Go, that's all.
Hold it. Pass it to left back. God, yeah, no. We're here to talk about mixed martial arts, something that you really care about. Not these little sports where I get to stop pretending to care about soccer now. Italy won. We're good. Can wrap it up until World Cup comes and we win again. Anyways, well, Mike, we won it. We won the World Cup. That must be a phrase you're unfamiliar hearing in Ghana.
Oh, damn.
Is there even a way to say that in your native tongue in Tree? Have those words ever been put together in a sentence? Is it directly translatable? You don't have to answer that. Anyways, we're coming at you before a card with Khabib's protege on it and Misha Tate and a couple of interesting other fights. We're going to preview that, talk about some news, but we are the Late Kick podcast, ladies and gentlemen, your source for everything combat sports. This is my co-host, Michael Asifo of Sankofa Radio, the Fan 590, current mixed martial arts fighter, and Joseph Kony impersonator. Mike, say hello.
Man, you had me with that World Cup joke. I'm not gonna lie. You had me with that World Cup joke. But we will. Yeah, Ghana will win one. We will get one.
The year
Please, before I die.
The year is 2045. Cybernetic athletes are now allowed. Ghana has been donated prosthetic cybernetic limbs with rocket launchers on them, and they have finally brought home a World Cup.
It's coming home. Ekofie, as we say in the native tongue.
Well, as we say in our native tongue, noi sono il campioni del mondo. I'll let you figure out what that means. And I am your other host, Stefano, MMA fighter. I did a few things back in the day, and I'm still doing a few things as we speak. And before we get into it, like the podcast, subscribe, tell your friends about it. This is one of those Friday episodes that'll probably get up to like 3 people, but that's okay. That's okay. If we can touch your ears and touch your private parts, we're more than satisfied with that.
Hearts are just fine. We don't have to touch any private parts. I'm okay.
Well, I disagree. Penis inspection day is next week, and I take it very seriously. Anyways, let's get into some news, shall we? How about a little transition?
Session.
Let's get into the news and views of the week. Okay, so not a ton of news. I hate when you go on MMA news media sites and you're looking for news and you see like so-and-so said he doesn't like Dustin Poirier's haircut, and Dustin Poirier fires back and says he'll fight you at any time. Like, that's not newsworthy. This is not newsworthy. You don't have anything to publish. Is this what moves numbers nowadays?
Unfortunately, yes. We are a mainstream brand now, and this is what mainstreamers care about.
What a shame. Okay. Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 3 rebooked, new date. Tyson Fury had COVID pretty badly, actually. It was circulating through his camp. But October 9th, T-Mobile Arena, the fight that literally nobody wants to see.
Except for Deontay Wilder.
Which he shouldn't, because as we've discussed a million times, he should be taking time off and improving and working on his skill set and finding some ways to set up that nuclear bomb of a right hand.
Yeah. I will say, though, if this is almost a blessing in disguise for him, and he should take it as that, because it gets him more time to work on his skills. October is a ways away. So, like, what is that? October. So we're in July. August, September, October, 3 months away. You can learn a lot in 90 days, so.
I suppose there's just a different mindset, and you know this very well, Mike, between camp mentality and, taking time off and expanding your skill set mentality.
Oh, yeah.
One's just
100%.
about sharpening those weapons you already have, and one is about taking time to learn and grow and develop. Deontay Wilder's got a fat purse. he's got some money on him. I just don't understand the urgency, but he wants it back. He wants it back.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost, again, it's almost a double-edged sword of.
Double-edged sword. Go on.
Yeah, okay. It's almost a double-edged sword of like being such a competitor that you like almost do things to your detriment, right? Because you believe in your heart that if you just did this, this, and this, you could have won, or like he got lucky, or it just wasn't my night. When in reality, like maybe there's some flaws that you need to work on before even touching a ring again. So in a competitive setting, of course. So it'll be interesting to see, to be honest, like in that sense of Deontay Wilder, if he's made improvements. I don't think the improvements he could have made could possibly be enough for Tyson Fury. But just like in the first fight, one lucky punch is all he realistically needs to put him down, right? One good punch.
I mean, that's the argument. And if that's the argument, Dan Henderson can still beat anyone in the world. Moving on. This is kind of outside of the purview of what we normally talk about, but I just thought it was kind of funny. Did you see the chain that Jake Paul sent Dustin Poirier?
Oh.
Of the sleeping Conor McGregor. Yeah. And reportedly Dustin Poirier is going to sell it and, auction it off, give the proceeds to the Good Fight Foundation.
Yeah, he's always kind of that kind of guy.
Classy through and through.
Yeah. You remember when Colby Covington tried to throw dirt on his name with that sparring session?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Colby is very annoying to me at this point, but,
Hell of a fighter, though.
Hell of a fighter. Absolutely. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Justin Balboa. I didn't know his last name was Balboa, but the guy that Joe Schilling knocked out is suing him for $30,000.
His name cannot be Balboa. You have to be making that up.
I swear to God, his name is Justin Balboa.
I mean, look, as he should, though, for the
I want you, Balboa. I want you, Balboa. That's Apollo Creed.
Well, yes. I remember.
Mind you, Mike, although you do look more like Joseph Kony, you do look a bit like Carl Weathers. I'm not gonna lie.
If I shave the beard and just keep the mustache, I think I could do it.
You could pull it off. That might be a new Halloween costume. I'll go as Ivan Drago. You go as Carl Weathers or Apollo Creed.
Yeah, I'll bring the America boxing trunks. We'll make it happen.
Living in America. What an epic walkout. Go on.
Yeah. And then he gets killed by Ivan Drago, literally.
That's what would happen. Go on.
So, yeah, no, I think as he should sue him. Unfortunately, this is, when you look at the video, yes, you could make an argument it was started by Mr. Balboa, but it definitely did not need to get escalated to that point. And I think, this is a lesson that Mr. Schilling, I call him Mr. because I have great respect for Joe Schilling, by the way. But unfortunately, the right is right and wrong is wrong. And this was,
as we discussed, this is kind of how you have to deal with things in a legal sense. Even though this guy was a scumbag, reportedly a racist and woman abuser.
Yeah, like that's the thing.
He definitely deserved it, but in the age of the internet, pretty clear assault, I think.
Like that's the thing. I want to stress that, like, this is not me defending. This is not me like saying, hey, Mr. Balboa was completely in the right and Joe Schilling was completely in the wrong. It's just when you look at the footage, right? You know, like from a moral sense, maybe Joe was in the right, Mr. Schilling was in the right, but from a legal sense, unfortunately, as he should get sued. Yeah. So
Unfortunately, you can't go around, cracking people. Cuts, cuts. Time for some cuts. Omari Akhmedov, no longer a member of the UFC roster.
really, that's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
I think that's unfortunate. You know,
You go on 1-2 fight losing streak, and
interesting fighter. I don't know what his losing streak is. He's 9-5-1 with the UFC. 2 fight at the night bonuses. Interesting fighter, strong grappler. Wins over Tom Breeze, Zach Cummings. He had that. It was rule of split decision, but I think he was pretty handily beat by Brad Tavares. Just a little bit too direct on the feet for my liking. A lot of power, some good tools, but just, refuses to feint. And, good left hook, but if you can draw his weapons out of him, as Brad Tavares showed, and he's unable to take you down, it's pretty easy to navigate a path to victory. But nonetheless, never seen him in a fight I didn't like. So I, with the leg kick, wish him all the best in the next stage of his career.
yeah. No, I just think it was because wasn't he on a 3-fight win streak or 4-fight win streak, and then was a 2-fight losing streak?
Well,
This shows
he lost to Weidman. There was this loss. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Well, the point I was trying to make is that the UFC is cutthroat. Unfortunately, it is a cutthroat business. So it's kind of sad to see him go. And I thought he was one of the better middleweights out there. So it's tough.
No, I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but no, you know what? We're not a tabloid piece.
No, what is it? What is it?
No.
We're going to touch
I was going to talk about Priscilla Cachoeira's ex-girlfriend filing a restraining order. To be honest,
oh no, yeah, I'm not touching that with 10-foot pole.
That kind of goes outside the purview of it's whatever.
Although I will say, not on this situation, but I do think more like a lot of times, we like to scapegoat one person for one thing they've done in the world of MMA. And it's like, well, 4 other people have done the same thing, right? So I do think that we should shed light, not just on the negatives, but on the positives. So like, for example, Dustin Poirier Good Fight Foundation, there are other fighters with other charities. Not saying Dustin Poirier's charity isn't important, but I'm saying that we should highlight everything. So when things like this do come out, we should not necessarily talk about it at length, but it should be known in the public consciousness. Yeah. I don't know if my point got across there.
I'm sure it did. It just, Eduardo Dantas signs with Shuto Brazil. I didn't even know he wasn't with Bellator. That's interesting. You want to move on? Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Good news. Fight recap.
Fight precap.
Precap. Transition.
Ding, ding.
Transition. Okay.
Brought to you by H2O.
And pasta. Oh, this is interesting. Really quickly, I just want to mention that Clarissa Shields is booked for next DFL fight August 19th. Opponent not mentioned, but she's expected to be on the same card with Kayla Harrison. What do you think that's about?
They're really trying to sell this Kayla versus Clarissa fight that will. I mean,
don't want it.
I don't want it at this point. The one thing about Clarissa is she's super young, so she can always get better. She had a pretty good learning experience facing Brittany Elkin. And here's the thing about that fight too. She showed a lot of chutzpah, a lot of heart. And she showed a lot of Ghana. I really would have thought if she got in mount, she would have panicked. She would have bucked a lot and messed up somewhere and got in trouble. Her jiu-jitsu was not great, but it was calm. And I think there's something there that you can work with where Clarissa Shields can be a legitimate, serviceable MMA fighter. So
years down the road, though.
Years down the road. Yeah.
No, get her away from Kayla Harrison. Get her away. Honestly, until we see some results, let's move on to some fighters that are actually, interesting.
Yeah.
If only
But
Jeremy
hey,
could hear me now.
if let's I know, but hey, let's say she goes on a 3-4 fight winning streak. Maybe not Kayla Harrison, but like she can, she can headline a card. Why not?
Well, if your aunt had balls, she'd be your uncle. Anyways, moving on. Top of the card. Now, a bit of a weird fight to make in Moises versus Makhachev. Moises coming off a loss, mysteriously gets entered into the top 15 off of a loss. Probably to make him a serviceable opponent for this fight. And I do like me some Moises. That ankle lock against Michael Johnson is an easy path to my heart. But it seems like Makhachev didn't really have a dance partner, and they're trying to crown him the new Khabib. Stylistic differences between him and Khabib. He's more well-rounded. Plays more of the positional game on the ground. Prefers takedowns out in the open as opposed to that grinding style up against the fence, which is interesting and also gives me some pause as far as, it's hard to know exactly how good Moises' jiu-jitsu is, but takedowns out in the open might favor Moises over that kind of smothering cage control.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with that assessment. Tactically, him and Khabib are the same, but stylistically and the weapons they use tend to be different. So like I've heard people call Makhachev Khabib with a striking game. I've heard people also say that he's just kind of worse with his wrestling, but better with his striking, giving him an evening out process. I think what it is with Makhachev is we just don't know, and unfortunately, no one wants to fight him to find out, except for Dan Hooker, who tried, and Makhachev was like, "You're too low on the rankings," which was interesting.
Wait, he didn't want to fight Hooker because he's too low on the rankings?
Yeah, he said, let me see if I can find the quote.
Then
here.
why accept a Thiago Moises fight?
So this is the thing, right? Well, look, I think Hooker asked him literally the week of, or 3 days ago. Maybe he might have asked him yesterday, actually, now that I think about it. And Makhachev said, well, he's number 8. If I win this fight, I want someone in the top 5. I'm paraphrasing. So the context is a little different. It's not one of those I won't fight Hooker, but I'm going to fight Moises, right? It's not that. But my point is that, I think there is more than meets the eye to this whole Makhachev ducking situation. Clearly, he wants Rafael Dos Anjos or anyone above. And he's not getting it. So he's got to take this Moises fight. With that being said, don't take this as a slaughter right away. I do think Moises can pose some issues. I think Moises is a tricky fighter on the ground. Not necessarily the best jiu-jitsu grappler in the UFC or even in the lightweight division, but a tricky guy to deal with.
Dangerous. Yeah, dangerous. Yeah. Decent butterfly guard. I don't know too much about his leg locking pedigree, but anytime you're coming up against a wrestler, leg kicks and catching them in transition and being able to pursue scrambles are obviously very important attributes to have, right?
Yeah.
We all tend to think of this as a matchup to announce Makhachev's coming out party, right? Giving him a main event slot. Mike, what do you think about their paths to victory individually?
Well, I think Makhachev just got to keep doing what he's been showing, right? Pressure, good strike, good basics, fundamental striking to lead into takedowns. Good pressure on when you're on the top game there. And I think the position game might actually work better for him in this fight, right? Rather than trying to just throw a whole bunch of punches on the ground against a very dangerous grappler. Because obviously when you expose a limb or an extremity, you don't know. Things could get crazy down there. So it actually might favor him to play the position game and be a little more patient in your shot selection when you're going to the ground. But Makhachev has shown all those things already. So keep my answer is keep doing what you're doing if you're Moises. If you're Makhachev. If you're Moises, I actually think the key to go here is leg kicks, because the Dagestani do not check leg kicks for whatever reason.
I was going to ask you about that dynamic, as far as, will the threat of the takedown make Moises hesitant to throw kicks, or will his ground pedigree make Makhachev more hesitant to take him down? I don't think Makhachev's going to be hesitant to go for the takedown. I think if anything, if Moises gets a leg caught, he would do well. I don't know how. Clearly, he's very comfortable diving on legs. If he does get a leg caught on a kick, that could be an opportunity for him to, attempt some kind of Ashigarami setup. There's the one from the single leg, especially if he can. I don't know how comfortable he is fighting out of. Makhachev often fights out of southpaw, right? So from that position, he'll be attempting single legs. There'll be opportunities to attack leg locks of his own, but. Yeah, we'll have to see. I think being that Makhachev is a more movement-based fighter than Khabib, I think the low kicks, especially as Makhachev retreats and circles the cage, are going to be something to take the stink out of those takedowns in the later rounds. And I think I actually disagree. I think application of more ground and pound and less playing the positional game is probably smarter against a grappler of this caliber,
Fair enough. Like, I do see your point. Like, if you punch, like, there's always the saying, you punch a black belt, he turns into a brown belt. So there is that. I just think that when you're dealing with someone who is aggressive in their jiu-jitsu and has acclimated themselves in MMA, and you know this, right? When you leave an extremity open, that's when things can get crazy. If you're reckless in your shot selection, that's when triangles, arm bars, knee bars, heel hooks, those things happen most of the time. But I could be wrong in this situation just because they're so I guess we're gonna call them the Dagestani crew of Khabib, Zabira, and Islam are so responsible in the way they choose their shot selection. So the Dagestani handcuff, for example, leg control, kind of top guard pressure where they'll like sink their shoulder down into like the opponent's neck. They do interesting things that make it very difficult to really get something. Sorry for the long-windedness. I apologize. But yeah, like I see your point. I just think that it would actually kind of do him better to just kind of make sure you've covered your bases and you've dotted the I's and cross the T's before you start wailing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think for Makhachev, for Moises, I think holding the center is a good idea, because I think from there, honestly, you don't want to get caught in that cycle up against the fence of just being taken down and standing back up and being taken down and standing back up. If you can mobilize, maybe a knee shield, maybe a butterfly, maybe, the threat of attacking the legs as a stand-up or as a threat in and of itself, that'll benefit you. So hold the center, kick the legs early and often. For Makhachev, I would honestly advise the application of pressure, even to a reckless degree in this fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. One thing I will say is, what type of leg kick is Moises going to do, right? I am.
It's got to be the low one.
No, I know, but that's what I was going to say. I implore below the knee. Implore below the knee. I know Makhachev is a southpaw, and it can get a little dangerous when a southpaw checks the would be the inside leg kick. But you really got to feint low, kick low, and make Makhachev suffer to reach downstairs before doing anything. In my opinion, that's, I think, what you got to do. You really got to kick low.
Yeah, especially because, as we saw last week with McGregor and Poirier, kicking above the knee, right? You can step in, it can ride up, there's the threat of the takedown, but kicking below the knee, really doesn't present you with those same threats. Any final words on this fight, Mike?
No, I just think if Makhachev dominates another opponent, get him somebody higher. We can't keep doing this with him.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. A step up in name value, I think, is warranted. Not to overlook Moises. And if Moises wins, which I probably think this is Makhachev's fight to lose. If Moises wins, man, that's a big win on his record. Next, we have a co-main event, Marion Renault versus Miesha Tate, which, to be honest with you, depending on your preferences, you might be excited for it. I think it's a good comeback fight for Miesha Tate, and that Marion Renault, typically not a finisher. It's a retirement fight.
Renault's retiring?
Yeah, she's released several statements that this is probably going to be her last, her last fight in the octagon. Lost to Macy Chasen, lost to
As
Raquel
one door
Pennington in
closes,
2020. That's her only fight. Then in 2019, lost to Yana Kunitskaya. That was her only fight. Holy crap. She hasn't had a win since February of 2018. A submission win over Marion Renault.
Sorry, Marion Renault hasn't had a
sorry,
win?
Against Sarah McMahon, my fault. Yeah, since then, it's the Kat Zingano lost in 2018, 2019, just a loss to Yana Kunitskaya. 44 years old.
Sun's getting low.
Yeah, it's kind of more of a grindy fighter, not really, kind of a good reintroduction to the UFC for Miesha Tate. Honestly, Miesha Tate seeming to be targeting the Amanda Nunes fight after this if she can get through.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, this is kind of an odd comeback to make for me, honestly.
Well, I mean, the reason why I think you're like kind of speechless is because you want to be respectful of Miesha Tate and everything she's done, because we agree. We agree. I mean, we had a list of overrated fighters, and we both talked ad nauseum about how she might be a little overrated in some lists. But with that being said, overrated does not mean bad. And she's still a fighter who did a lot outside the UFC. And when she came in, she was a consummate professional, had that great comeback, and
won the belts, right? Overperformer.
Overperformer. She wasn't a hell of an athlete or a technician, but she, I compare it to almost female Forrest Griffin. When the lights are on bright, every once in a while she'll get you one. And,
sure.
And so it's right. Yeah. So it's one of those tough ones where it's like you want to be respectful, but
realistic at the same time, right?
Yeah.
I'm not particularly excited for this, to be honest.
It's weird. I gotta ask you why. I'm of the excitement of Robbie Lawler I'm of the camp that is excited for Robbie Lawler versus Nick Diaz too. But I'm not particularly excited for this one. Why? Try to explain that to me.
I can easily explain that to you, because Miesha Tate's fight and Marion Renault's fighting style, not particularly interesting even at the best of times. Let's be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves. And to compare, like what iconic performances come to you throughout Miesha Tate's career when you think of her? It's the home fight, right?
Yeah.
A largely unentertaining bout up until she was able to score that rear naked choke. She's not. I just don't find her particularly interesting stylistically, and I don't know how much improvement she's made, but for me, it's a very dated style of just, that women's MMA mold from like 2000 and
throw two punches, clinch, hope for a takedown, right?
Yeah. Couldn't stay out of a clinch with Ronda Rousey, for, I was going to say for her life to depend on it, but like, it's, I don't know. Not particularly impressed with her. Whereas Robbie Lawler and Nick Diaz, while well-aged, you can still expect an entertaining performance out of them. Nick Diaz is never going to be, and it's kind of like a fun throwback fight in a way. you know?
Mm-hmm.
I probably see Misha Tate winning, although I'm not entirely sure. It's probably based on the 4 or 5 fight losing streak of Marion Rowe. I think it's a pretty safe bet.
Unless Misha Tate comes out and looks like ass,
which you never know.
Yeah.
She might have gotten some unfortunate. I should stop insulting ONE FC actually, because if I ever hope to get signed by them. Anyways,
I mean, ONE FC. This is your boy right here, Stefano Hosko.
I even bought the shorts.
He even bought the shorts.
Now I'm excited for this next fight coming up. Matthias Gamrot versus Jeremy Stevens.
Interesting fight.
Yeah. Stevens, this was brought to my attention that he has not won since that knockout of what's his face? He's winless in quite a while since that Josh Emmett fight back in 2018.
Yeah, he knocked out Josh Emmett.
But since then, the knockout of Jose Aldo, Sabit, the no contester Yair, followed by the subsequent loss, and then the knockout at the hands of Calvin Kattar. So
the elbow.
that
was sexy.
I don't know that the UFC is necessarily looking to cut him, but Gamrot on fire, man. I don't know if you knew this, but he's a phenomenal grappler, actually. Had a match against Gary Tonin in ADCC.
Yeah, which was, unfortunately, first round, which, hey, here's face the killer. Like,
exactly.
Face the guy who's going to win in the first
But
round.
what really impressed me in his last fight against Scott Holtzman was his striking. It was so long ago, so I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't give it a second look before this fight. But I remember one particular counter that he kept hitting ad nauseum. Like, he added a few interesting things to his game. Yeah, you got to stay disciplined against Jeremy Stevens, right? You simply have to, because he's not the best cage cutter, right?
Yeah.
More so since he added that low leg kick to his game, which was a good addition. But you must be disciplined against this man, or it's lights out, quite frankly. But it seems that his past 5-6 opponents have done just that.
They've stayed disciplined. I think part of it is also Stevens has lost a step. Never really the most fleet of foot, to be honest with you, but it seems more so now he's stuck in the mud a little bit. Which isn't, a knock. Like, there's a lot of good fighters who are not the fastest of guys, who win championships. But it just seems that when you do that, you got to have good lateral puppies. I think, I hate to bring it back to Khabib. One of the things Khabib was good at was his lateral quickness was actually like one of the secret, like, best kept secrets in the UFC. He'd be on you like white on rice, and then boom, laterally he would get you. And I think with Jeremy Stevens, that's kind of been the thing that's troubled him his entire career, is guys have been able to sneak out the back door on him whenever.
Yeah, repeatedly. If they're willing to fight that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're willing to fight that way, then it's and if they're, there's another path to victory in, like, let's say Frankie Edgar, who kept, trying to engage him in a brawl or make him think that, and then dropping it on his hips, right? I remember what it was, because I knew there was something very unusual about Gamrot that he brought into his last fight that I really liked. And he, other than like good use of the low kick, one thing that he did phenomenally was he shot in for this old school low single Sakuraba style. Do you remember that against Holtzman?
Yeah.
Low single after low single, and occasionally he'd get it
just below the knee, right?
Yeah, but sometimes he'd reach down as if he was going for it, and then come back up and throw a combination off of it, throw a pair of hooks off of that low single, which to me was just beautiful. If he's willing to grapple, I tend to favor Gamrot, but folks, Jeremy Stevens is not a fighter that I would want to put money on in any particular fight. Not put money on, I mean put money on a Jeremy Stevens fight, just because he does have that great equalizer. But
it's weird because it's like, if he can get, I've heard someone say this, I think it was Jack Slack. If you fight a disciplined fight and you're one of the better fighters in the world, you're beating Jeremy Stevens. But if you either A, fight an undisciplined fight, or B, are not one of the best in the world, Jeremy Stevens is going to fuck you up.
He's going to fuck you up.
So you're running into, I think we're running into this weird limbo. And I think on a lesser scale, Tisha Torres kind of falls into this camp too, where it's like good enough to be outside top 15 to 10, number 10, but not good enough to beat anyone who's legit.
Yeah, it's he's falling into that gatekeeper position, a dangerous gatekeeper, right? Mm-hmm. To be fair, but yeah, we will see. It's even though he's on a 5-6 fight losing streak or unwinnable, not winning streak. I'm always like, I don't know, especially because, I just watched through some highlights of Gamrot's last fight. And when he can't get that low single, man, he does that thing where he almost puts himself underneath you, moving to the opposite leg. And there are exchanges where when you're gifted with the kind of power Jeremy Stevens has, that you don't want to play around with. It's like Derek Lewis back in the day fighting, I believe it was Ruan Potts. And, Potts was underneath him in half guard and Lewis just hit him with these little hammer fists. And normally a situation like that wouldn't be one that's potentially fight ending, but you got to mind your P's and Q's against him.
Fair enough.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I favor Gamrot slightly.
Give me Stevens in this one, actually. Okay. I'm gonna go Stevens. I just think that a lot of Gamrot's best stuff is in tight. I think Stevens is actually a very improved takedown defense. His takedown defense is very improved. I think Stevens shocks the world here and pulls off a W.
Interesting. Okay.
I do think Gamrot's a good fighter, and I don't think this is going to be I think he'll make a good account of himself here, but I think Stevens can absolutely win this fight, especially if it's 3 rounds.
And then we'll move through these quickly because Rodolfo Vieira's back after his embarrassing submission loss.
Disgraceful.
Folks, you got to have a well-rounded game. And when you're on top, fuck the positional hierarchy. It's about damage. It is quite frankly about damage. And don't let anybody tell you anything else other than that. And Rodolfo Vieira, I hope these are lessons that he's absorbed. Also, I hope that he has absorbed some more red blood cells because his cardio just, he gassed himself out with a round of grappling, which is quite frankly embarrassing.
It was disgraceful. Don't worry. You can put the sugarcoat version on it because I know, he's one of the best grapplers to ever do it in ADCC. But
which makes it all the more embarrassing, though, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll say it like that. Like for you to come over and embarrass the grappling community the way you did, Rodolfo, I hope you were in the lab. Like I really hope you were traded because, quite frankly, it was disgraceful. It was disgraceful. So.
Kind of a gimme fight, it seems here. Dustin Stoliafis. I don't know anything about this guy. Apparently, he's off of the Contender Series and then lost to Kyle Daukaus. Chris Daukaus, his brother. I mean, pretty storied record, though. 13-2, fought in kickboxing. I know literally nothing about him. But
well, I mean, if you're 13-2, you got to pick up, 13 good ones. So
yeah. Let's see if Rodolfo Vieira has, put together some mixed martial arts skills. And then we've got Benitez versus Quarantillo. Should be a fun banger.
I like Billy.
I do as well. I do. Very blood and guts fighter. Benitez kicks as hard as anyone in the UFC, so that'll be fun. Daniel Rodriguez is back. Amanda Lemos. This fight is, if I was the UFC, you want to get an interesting contender in there at 125. Man,
this is your girl. Yeah, this is
like I don't get it. I do not get why she's not on the main card in a division where you are struggling to get people for Valentina. Amanda Lemos is an exciting prospect. She has got a decent boxing, right? She's a finisher at that weight class. She's fast, and they're just putting her against somebody that. I mean, if you want to give me fight on the card, if you remember this Montserrat Ruiz chick, she's the one who just won her last fight came in against Cheyenne Baez and just
Yes,
headlock takedown after headlock takedown after headlock takedown.
And then spit on her.
And spit on her. And
then Cheyenne Baez was like, I know where you live, mother. Or something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to follow you home. And what? You got headlock takedown like 15 times. What are you going to do? Yeah. So if you're looking for a sure thing, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, look, every once in a while, Sean Shelby, Dana White, and the folks at the UFC do the right thing by a fighter, which is they build them up if they think they're going to be great and keep it silent that this girl's a killer until they are absolutely certain she's ready for the prime time.
That's the thing, man. You're getting Greg Hardy on main cards. Like, we all know this is about as big as a mismatch as you can get in the UFC. You know you're probably going to get a good knockout of it. Man, make Benitez versus Quarantillo your prelim headliner, and then throw Lemos on the main card. That's just how I see it.
Fair enough. I mean, you know what? Does even card like look, if there's a highlight, let's say she throws this right cross out of hell and sleeps Ruiz, like just sleeps her. It's gonna be all over Instagram anyway. So does it even matter? Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
More viewers on that main card, my man. And finally, there's one more fight I just wanted to talk about briefly. I'm glad he's getting a second shot because, I actually briefly met him not too long ago. Almost had the opportunity to roll with him, but he was packing it in for the day. Malcolm Gordon getting another, packing it in as in like he was, tired and done training. I am very, very, very happy that he's getting a third shot in the UFC because I think most likely hasn't really shown what he's capable of. Had that short notice fight against Amir Albazi and then lost to Sumo DRG, who's just a murderer and an absolute giant at that 125-pound weight class. And getting another tough fight against Francisco Figueiredo, younger brother of Davison Figueiredo. Malcolm, we stand behind you, our Canadian comrade. Do us proud.
And he's taking another tough one, man. Like, short nose fight, then a toughie, then another toughie, and he's also kind of small, if memory serves me correctly. So,
dude, standing next to him in person, he is tiny. I mean, who isn't at 125? But you saw what he looked like against Sumo DRG, right?
Yeah, it was like it looked like two different weight classes, to be honest.
Like,
so
if there was there is 105 in one championship, but not 115. I mean, I don't know what his weight cut's like. Some people just have unbelievably dense bones, but he is a small 25er. But we, wish him the best. We do.
Yeah, 100%.
5 foot. It says that here that he. This is my problem with UFC height statistics. They're saying here that he's 5'7" on.
Hell no.
On Topology. I stood next to the guy. He is not 5'7".
Hell no.
How tall do they? If he's 5'7", Sumo DRG must be like 7 feet tall. Yeah, no, it says that Sumo DRG is 5'8" here. There was not an inch of height difference between them. Like,
I mean,
these height statistics are about as dishonest as politicians, man.
Yeah. Was that Bazooka Joe's gym? I remember seeing him.
I saw him at Toronto Top Team.
Makes sense. I can't remember where I saw him, but like I remember seeing him and saying like easily he could be 5'2". So
yeah, absolutely.
Which isn't a bad thing. Like, there's a lot of 5'2" fighters who've done it big. I'm just saying, like,
yeah, just undersized for the weight class, and not that there's anything wrong with that. We just would like to see some honest statistics, UFC, please, for the love of God.
With that being said, really, really fast and really good grappler, I think, in my opinion.
Good wrestler.
And also really fast, like with his hands. So I think if he gets a couple good wins here and there, he could be a really exciting guy for the UFC. So
sure.
I'm with him all the way. I'm just kind of, this is a toughie for him. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm. Okay, guys. I think that does us. No bad take of the week. But what we do have for you is our love and support. And come Sunday, we will have a recap of the fights and all things mixed martial arts. Thank you for tuning in. Like us, you can find us where you find podcasts, subscribe, tell your friend about us. And Mike, to play us out, what does that mean?
Fuck it, we'll do it live. In this crazy mixed up world where the sky is opening up, the restaurants are opening up, COVID is going to be behind us soon, hopefully, cross our fingers, hope so. Just remember, you got three things: life, family, and this podcast.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Saved by the ark. Saved by the ark.
Yeah. Sapete perché?
You know why?
Perché l'inventore di questo liquore. Che figli siamo, beviamo, beviamo.
We drink to invent this liquor. But all we're going to do is drink it.